purity culture is shaming.
Short answer is no.
And there will always be LGBT Christians who belong.
A million different voices, a million different opinions. Every day we're faced with a choice. What narrative will shape the way that we live? World of confusion. Let's talk truth.
Does the God of the Bible exist? Is it biblical to be pro-choice?
Welcome to That's Debatable with me, Dr. Michael Brown.
Hey everyone, welcome to That's Debatable with me, Dr. Michael Brown, where everything is debatable. There's only one truth. You know, for decades, the pro-choice, pro-life argument's been one at the forefront of society, politics, religion. In today's show, we're going to be examining the question, is it biblical to be pro-choice? Debating this topic with me today is Brenda Marie Davies. Brenda's an author, podcast host, and social media influencer with over 127,000 subscribers on YouTube. Her platform, God is Gray, has become an interactive space for people of all ages and beliefs. She's known for her progressive Christian views and her passion for deconstructing traditional Christianity. Welcome, Brenda. Thanks so much for joining me on That's Debatable.
Thank you for having me.
So what made you accept the invitation to be part of the show today?
I'm always begging people of opposing perspectives to have dialogue because my genuine belief is that most things land in a gray area and we probably have more in common than we think.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm constantly begging for the same, to have dialogue, interactions. So this would be great. Today we're going to pose the question, is it biblical to be pro-choice? We're going to take a quick break, and then after the break, let's debate. Hey friends, let me encourage you to take 30 seconds and head over to my website, askdrbrown.org, and sign up for our emails. I'll tell you more about my personal story from LSD to PhD. I'll tell you about the 3 R's of our ministry: revival in the church, moral and cultural revolution in society, redemption in Israel. And then every week we'll let you know about latest articles, latest videos, episodes of the debate show. So go to Ask Dr. Brown today and sign up for my weekly emails. I'll meet you there. Welcome back to That's Debatable with me, Dr. Brown. I'm joined by author and social media influencer Brenda Marie Davies. We're about to dive into a debate over whether it's biblical to be pro-choice. Obviously, a very intense discussion. So we'll both have equal time to make our cases. Brenda will be up first. She'll have 3 minutes on the clock. When 3 minutes is up, she'll hear this sound. All right, Brenda, over to you. Your clock starts now.
Whew. Okay. So this is a topic that is incredibly dear to my heart. As you mentioned, I'm an author. My book is called On Her Knees, which really chronicles my journey in purity culture, which I spent like over 12 years in the evangelical church. And I really, truly not only believe, but know that those teachings caused a lot of damage in my sexuality and in my spirituality in general. So my book is really diving into all of that. And there is a portion on abortion. And I do a lot of videos on this subject matter on my YouTube channel, God is Gray, as well, because I am so passionate about preventing abortion. A lot of people misunderstand me and think I'm some pro-life or pro-choice liberal hippie that just loves killing babies, and that could not be further from the truth. So when I was diving into my own research, I realized that it is biblical to vote in a pro-choice manner because pro-choice policy, even though the title is deceptive, actively, strategically, and effectively prevents far more abortion than pro-life policy. So we are dealing with the verbiage that's confusing, but pro-life is not true to its title because pro-life policy makers will usually lean into abstinence-only education, which shows no delay in sexual activity in teenagers. As a matter of fact, comprehensive sex ed, which pro-choice policy makers advocate for, prevents, or rather causes people to abstain from sex an average of 2 years beyond. And the only thing that goes up when you teach children about, or teenagers rather, about abstinence only is STDs, unwanted pregnancy, and therefore abortion. According to the Guttmacher Institute, over 70% of abortion clients reported to having Christian background, and over 70 or 80% of them already had children. So to me, it's about education. It's about comprehensive sex ed. It's about resource. And it's about making sure that the way we vote actually aligns and does effectively what we're trying to do, which Dr. Brown, you and I both agree that we are trying to prevent abortion. But again, voting pro-life will just up those numbers because pro-life policymakers do not institute the things that are studied, researched, proven, tested, and true to actually prevent abortion. And I have 12 more seconds. But yeah, that's essentially it.
Got it. All right. The clock ticks. Okay, we didn't even hear the buzz at that time. Well, you said a lot. You used your time well. So we agree we want to prevent abortions. And we know there can be gut-wrenching accounts of a 13-year-old raped by an uncle. Are we going to impose having a baby on her? I know there are gut-wrenching human issues, poverty, bringing in another mouth to feed into the world. For me, ultimately, though, I've got to start with Scripture. And God sees the child in the womb as a child already. We'd all agree it's wrong to throw out a baby that's already born because it's a drain on the family, or they can't feed the child, or the child is too sick. Well, if conception is where life begins, and that's the real issue. You know, in Genesis, when Rebecca is struggling, she's told, you have two nations in your womb. Those are already people and who they represent. We know the account with John the Baptist when he's in the womb of his mother, Elizabeth, and Miriam visits with Jesus in the womb, and John leaps in the womb already. The personhood is there. Psalm 139 talks about God carefully forming us in the womb, meticulously caring for us. Abortion tears that baby apart. I was just jotting some things down before the show. Day 7, the fetus is implanted in the uterus. This is day 7 after conception. Day 18, mother doesn't know she's pregnant. Day 18, the heartbeat starts. Day 28, eyes, ears, respiratory system begin to form. Day 42, skeleton complete, brain waves recorded, reflexes present. Week 7, pictures of babies sucking their thumbs. Week 16, the mother still is not even feeling the activity. The baby's doing somersaults and moving. You must stand with that baby. You must stand with the most vulnerable. Jesus cares for the least of these, and it has to start in the womb. When you look at what happens to a culture, once it accepts abortion, or says abortion is a woman's right, once it accepts that, there's a further dehumanizing. There is a further celebration of death in the culture. There is a lack of concern for the least of these, for the hurting. And what we must start with is pro-life culture in the womb. And look, we know this from the start. We're having a baby. The moment the mom realizes, tells her husband, we're having a baby. And what are we going to name the child? It's not a clump of cells. And of course, you didn't say that either. It's a human being already in the womb. So we can look at this holistically. We can look at abstinence education versus other. We can look at policies that help the poor. Let's look at this holistically. Let's construct holistic pro-life policies. But we must start with the care for the least of these. We must say, okay, let's join arms together to stop the slaughter of the unborn, the tearing up and ripping up and destruction of these babies who are created in God's image, and life is already there. That is a child in the womb. All right, so we get 2 minutes now for
perfectly timed.
Yep. We get 2 minutes for our rebuttals. Brenda, over to you.
Okay, so I really fundamentally disagree with you that the most pressing issue is whether or not we agree on morality or life at conception, because we live in a melting pot. Not everyone is always going to agree with you in the sanctity of life at conception. Even in the Bible, God talks about life at first breath. So there are even Catholic priests that will argue that life actually doesn't begin until the baby draws its first breath. That doesn't mean that anyone's okay with 9-month abortion. And for your point of people celebrating death, no one is celebrating death. I know of many, many, many women who are devastated by this circumstance, and this fallacy that women are using it as birth control or just willy-nilly is patently untrue by statistics and by conversations I've had with others. So the reason I know that this argument is irrelevant is because you are not going to effectively be able to get everyone on your moral side. But what you can do is not ignore, which pro-lifers always do. My entire opening argument was about how do we prevent abortion? Because you claim to hate it, but I told you statistically it's true that pro-life policy, which you are arguably voting for, is actively right now killing more babies than the way I voted, which was for pro-choice. So, and also you keep talking about the least of these. The least of these are also present in society. Those are the women that have been discarded by their partners, by society, who are told, we will take care of your baby while it's in the womb. We will protect that baby because that is the least of these. But as soon as it's out of your womb, you're on your own. I had a baby myself. I had health insurance, and I was about to owe $120,000 for my birth. That is not taking care of women. That is not taking care of the least of these.
So, Brenda, in point of fact, I didn't respond to your first arguments in my opening statements for the integrity of the debate. Opening statement, opening statement. Now I get to rebut. You can quote Guttmacher Institute. Look, it's Planned Parenthood. They're one and the same in terms of their orientation. But there is a shout your abortion movement, sadly. I've read quotes from radical feminists talking about, good, we got rid of the tumor, it was gone, it was a clump of cells. No, I don't think that's your average woman. I agree that it's traumatizing. I agree that it's difficult. But look, it's common knowledge, Soviet Union, Ukraine, that women will have 5, 6, 7 abortions. It's birth control. And for many, it is birth control, sadly enough. And the ones that I know, and again, I've got statistics, I've got data. The ones that I know that are involved in pro-life, they're holistic. They work with the families. Every year, they've got families there. Here's the mom and the dad that are now together. Here's the kid that would have been slaughtered in the womb. Because bottom line, you cannot get away from the fact that the baby is being killed in the womb. It's not just a theoretical argument. As for life beginning with breath, if you quote from Genesis, the 2nd chapter with Adam, he didn't exist until he was formed. Then he was formed. Then God breathes the breath of life into him. Okay, but God breathes the breath of life into the baby at conception. Otherwise, you're telling me that beating heart is not alive? That baby that can feel things is not alive? That baby with complete DNA code is not alive? That baby that's kicking, that the mom can feel, is not alive? Come on, you certainly know better than that. As for saying that abstinent education hurts, I've seen the exact opposite stats. And look, when I was growing up as a kid before the sexual revolution of the 1960s, where there was a more whole and holistic family culture, you didn't have all the promiscuity, you didn't have all the STDs. The fact that you've got 15, 20% of teen girls today with STDs is not because of a national purity culture. It's more because of songs like WAP and all the junk that's going on. We need to do what's best in a holistic way. So we've given our 2-minute rebuttals, which means one thing. We move into our rapid fire cross-examination round. So Brenda and I will each have the opportunity to go back and forth more quickly as we continue to make our cases. So we will be right back after this quick break. Hey friends, I hope you appreciate the work we're doing. We're willing to tackle the hot button questions and be the lightning rod and go places where very few are willing to go, but we do it with your help. I want to invite you to partner with our ministry. Go to my website now, AskDrBrown.org, click on donate, find out about becoming a monthly supporter. Every month we pour back into you with free resources, online classes you can take, all kinds of things to pour into you as you stand together with us. Friends, together we are making a difference. Welcome back to That's Debatable. I'm Dr. Brown, joined by author and social media influencer Brenda Marie Davies. We're debating the question, is it biblical to be pro-choice? We made our opening statements, rebuttals. Now we'll have a series of 3 1-minute segments and then 30-second segments in this rapid fire moment. So Brenda, over to you.
I couldn't agree more that we need a holistic approach. But again, you keep talking in morality, and I'm talking about pragmatism. I'm talking about how do we actually do it. You can beg me to get on the same page with you about life at conception, and I'm already telling you that I'm on your page. Abortion breaks my heart. As far as the statistics you speak of, I would really encourage anyone to actually actively research comprehensive sex education and the positive effects it has on people. Also read Linda K. Klein's book, Pure, which will outline the negative effects that purity culture has. Abstinence-only education does not delay sexual activity by more than it doesn't delay it at all. Comprehensive sex ed delays it by 2 years. Even if your children are being exposed to WAP, if they have comprehensive sex ed and they're being told properly how to honor their bodies, how to honor sexuality, how to make autonomous choices with enthusiastic consent, then they will actively prevent unwanted pregnancy, therefore unwanted abortion.
You know, all we have to do is look at families that raise their kids with a respect for sex and sexuality and marriage, not putting them in bondage, not shaming them. Purity culture can do that in a negative way. But those that are raised, and I know so many families like that, and young people, they don't have STDs, they're not pregnant out of wedlock, and they're happily married and raising kids in the same way. Whereas I hear the stories of the kids coming home from the sex education class in tears, and why are they having the boys put condoms on their fingers, and we're watching stuff and it's like porn. No, that doesn't help. It's never helped through human history. And again, when we talk about being holistic, those that are leading the pro-adoption movement, those that are out there at the abortion clinics telling the moms, hey, there's a better way, and we'll work with you, and we'll help you, and we won't condemn you. And if the dad's involved too, we'll work with him. Those are the ones making a difference. So don't put that down. Let's work together.
I would argue that if children are coming home ashamed and horrified by comprehensive sex ed and the knowledge of how to use a condom, then they are being shamed at home. Purity culture is shaming, telling people there is only one specific sexual ethic, that it has to be heterosexual, married sex, yes, will perpetuate shame if someone is having sexuality in any other context. And it is incredibly untrue that giving someone the tools, the knowledge, education, and information to put on a condom to prevent STDs and pregnancy is going to be a negative thing. That's just absurd to me. Education is empowering. My father is a conservative Christian as well. We've had many debates, but the one thing we've always come to terms on is that knowledge, not withholding information from people, no matter what their age, is empowering and will help people make autonomous, wise choices with their sexuality.
You know, as a result of the sexual revolution, when you look back from, one psychologist said, you fell asleep in the year 1960, woke up in the year 2000, you find divorce rate doubled, teen suicide tripled, reported violent crime up 4 times, prison population up 5 times, children born out of wedlock up 6 times, couples living together outside of wedlock up 7 times. It's the breakdown in the culture. It's the breakdown in the family. It's the sexual revolution. I was reading about a school in Northeast America where they were giving out condoms to elementary school kids. For what possible purpose? And what does a middle schooler need to know about anal sex and things like that? It's preposterous. It's absurd. And when God says that marriage, the union of a man and woman for life, is the best way, it is the best way. And when kids are raised in that, they can have a healthy sex life, a wonderful relationship with spouse. They'll never get an STD. This will never come their way. It's only when you open up all these other things and say this is fine and acceptable that we bring destruction on the next generation.
The divorce rates within the Christian community are just as high as any other community, and therefore there's also a lot of adultery. People can bring STDs into a marriage. So again, you are simply making a moral argument while I am desperately trying to make a pragmatic argument for this. It is also not beneficial to you to continue to decide to vote pro-life when I am telling you it actively causes more death. I'm just telling you that is a fact. But again, if you're going to be, pardon me, stubborn and dig your heels in and say, I have this moral argument, I'm sticking to that, I'm just going to close my ears and not educate myself further on it, then you are not only doing a disservice to everyone, but to yourself and the way that you are voting. Comprehensive sex education is age appropriate. No one is teaching 5-year-olds how to have anal sex. That is a fallacy. It is always age appropriate. It's about consent. It's about knowledge that is appropriate for that age.
Yeah, I actually bought some of the curriculum and some of the tools that are used, and it's anything but age appropriate. It's obscene. What I've read, what I've seen, little children exposed to absolutely absurd. You know what I find fascinating though, just on a total personal level, Brenda, You talk to me as if I haven't studied, as if I haven't analyzed the issues, as if I'm a Johnny-come-lately to this, as if I don't know people that believed what you believe and don't anymore, as if I don't know people that were in the abortion industry or even worked at a Planned Parenthood that have had radical changes of life. I remember a woman, Christian woman, calling my radio show who worked at Planned Parenthood, asking if it was okay. And then she began to talk honestly. She said, they bring me in the back and they bring me over. They cross-train us. She said, they brought me in the back to see the POC, the products of conception. She started weeping. She says, those little babies, those little children. She knew she had to run from this. Look, my argument is not even focusing on education, sex education. That's not what we said it was. It's pro-choice versus pro-life. I am pro-life.
But that's the thing too. I am pro-life. Just because your party has deemed what you are doing pro-life doesn't mean that it actually is. That's the reason that I'm talking to you about education, because I'm telling you that if you're taking on the term of pro-life or pro-choice, your party and the policies that they enact need to reflect that effectively. I am not trying to diminish you or your research, but I'm just flabbergasted because I know the exact opposite to be true.
Right. So I'm not putting you down or saying you're closed-minded for coming to different conclusions. I'm simply saying I've looked at data and come to the exact opposite conclusions. The issue with Christian teaching is not the Christian teaching, it's Christian hypocrisy. It's people not living out their faith. It's people saying one thing and doing another. And my party, I'm registered independent just for the record, so I don't have a formal party affiliation. But look, bottom line again, being pro-life means voting pro-life, and it is in the best interest of the child. We must start with the baby.
Again, I just disagree. Voting pro-choice is actively advocating for pro-life. Not only that, this is an aside, but it's still relevant. Pro-choice policymakers are usually fully pro-life, meaning that we also care about death row inmates. In this last administration, which claimed to be pro-life, Donald Trump killed more inmates in federal prison than any other president had in over 19 years. That is not pro-life.
I'm happy to debate the death penalty another time, but that's not the subject. In point of fact, when you have New York legislators celebrating and cheering when they say abortion for any reason up until the time of conception, if the mother says, I'm mentally, emotionally not ready to have this, and they celebrate that, and they light up federal buildings or major buildings in celebration of these abortion laws, these immoral laws, you cannot tell me that these people are pro-life. Absolutely, categorically not.
I'll tell you one of the main tenets of our faith that in the Bible, over 90 times, God says not to fear, or some variation of fear. It says that the enemy is our author of fear. So when we are watching news that is finding these outlander stories about the very minimal amount of people that is actually celebrating things like that, not talking to pro-choice people that actually would never want late-term abortion, you're playing into fear, and that is not going to solve this issue, and it's not biblical.
Yeah, I could say you're playing into fear by talking about if you try to teach your kids biblical values that they'll end up more promiscuous. We could throw that argument back and forth. You just overstated things. I was simply bringing a corrective there. Let us be whole life in a holistic way, the pro-life in a holistic way. The pro-life people I know, they're active in abortion, they're active in adoption, they're active on the streets to help people on a practical level, they're active working with the poor and the hurting and the needy and fighting against sex trafficking. Why? Because we're holistically pro-life people. All right, so we both have the opportunity now to give our 1 minute final statement. I appreciate this being so forthright. I expected nothing less. So Brenda, over to you for the last minute.
Well, you keep talking about this holistic approach, which is why the death penalty is relevant. Oftentimes the least of these are people that are stuck in the prison industrial complex. And there's racist systemic roots and reasons for that. And I am holistically 100% pro-life. And that is why I vote pro-choice, because I see those policies. I've researched. I am a comprehensive sex educator myself. I've been trained in it. So I know that despite what you're telling me, it is age appropriate. And it is empowering. Like I said, my conservative father and I both agree that education is empowering and people deserve that. Furthermore, the last thing I'll share is that when I was pregnant, I had health insurance and I was quoted $6,000 to $120,000 to have my baby. We in this country put so many obstacles against women that make it harder to say yes. Your friends shouldn't have to be doing this groundwork. We need help helping women say, yes, I will do this.
So join our friends in front of the abortion clinics and tell them, hey, there are options. There's a better way. Help support the pregnancy life care clinics, because Planned Parenthood is not going to tell you, hey, let's think through your options together. Hey, let's look at an ultrasound first just to see that life that's within the womb. And by the way, you have no idea where I stand in terms of death penalty, but I absolutely stand with you in working against systemic racism where it does exist, and including in what's happened with our prison system. On that level, you should be glad for the reforms that President Trump worked for in the prison system, which many African Americans appreciated. Bottom line is, unless you are doing everything you can to stop the slaughter of the unborn in the womb, you can't call yourself pro-life. And if you work against those of us who are pro-life, you can't call yourself pro-life. By all means, let's look at all the issues, societal, educational, all together, and let's do what we can to preserve life within the womb and outside the womb. That's being pro-life. Hey, Brenda, thank you for coming on. This is exactly why we asked you to come on. You did not let me down at all in being articulate and clear and dogmatic. So thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, we do these debates to bring out both sides and to get you thinking. So I hope this has been fruitful for you. If there's a topic you'd like me to debate or a guest you'd like to suggest, or you think that you're qualified to come on the show, you can find me at Instagram on That's Debatable. I'm Dr. Brown. We'll see you next time.
I'm Shea Wilbur, Executive Director of Awakening TV. I wanted to thank you so much for subscribing and being a part of the Awakening TV family. We love and appreciate every single one of you. If you would like to further partner with us and sow into this network, you can do so by visiting our website. Know that every gift given not only enables us to create more content, but it helps us advance God's kingdom one story at a time.